Namaste. My name is Bob Smith, and this is the 15th lesson in Introduction to Meditation with Key McGraw and Bob Smith. In this lesson, we'll take a shift as we've covered the chakras for the last 8 lessons, and the shift is going to be into Pir Vilayat Khan and some of the teachings of Pir Vilayat Khan. I was initiated by Pir Vilayat Khan in 1971 into the Sufi Order and studied his teachings until his death and well beyond his death in 2004. I bring forward these messages because our teacher is right there, right here in voice with Pir Vilayat Khan. And so I'd like you to hear it straight from where we heard it from and inspired us. Our meditations have come from a great lineage of meditation tradition, including the yogis and the Sufis. As you listen to the various presentations given by Pir Zia and Pir Vilayat Khan, please use this as a meditation. That while you're listening to their voice and possibly sometimes watching the screen of various photos I put forward of Pir Vilayat and Pir Zia and the Sufi Order and other things that relate to the meditation, as you're involved with this, please continue to breathe deeply and slowly with a tall, lifted spine and use it the entire presentation as a meditation. And now I would like to introduce Pir Zia Khan. Pir Zia Khan is presently the head of the Sufi Order of the West after his father, Pir Vilayat Khan, died in 2004. In the following passage, Pir Zia Khan is going to do the Sufi invocation. This was brought forward by his grandfather, the great Hazrat Inayat Khan, Pir Vilayat Khan's father. Followed by the invocation by Pir Zia is, in Pir Zia's words, the message that Pir Vilayat wrote down about the invocation. So it's Pir Vilayat's reinterpretation or updating of the ancient Sufi message.
We begin with the invocation. Toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. So we begin now, having begun first with the invocation as given by Hazrat Pir Inayat Khan. We commence now with the invocation given by Pir Vilayat, which is his adaptation and commentary on his father's invocation. We invoke the One, whose body is the cosmos, which we share in our bodies, and whose mind is the software behind the existential appearance of reality, and in which mind we participate in our thinking, and whose presence is continually lying in wait in our being. and yet who outstrips any concept that we can possibly construct. And we invoke all those beings who have attained a level of realization that inspires us and helps us to validate our being and fulfill the purpose of our life.
Now, in this passage, Pir Zia talks about his father in an endearing way. He talks about all the roles and the challenges that Pir Vilayat faced in his life. And he talks about what Pir Vilayat did in his life. And one of the themes of Pir Vilayat's life was that the pristine, the depth of the soul is lying in wait inside of us, and it can be recovered and restored no matter what the damage to the personality and to our physical form. That the glory of the soul lies deep within, and we can recover it. And the simile is used with the great opera singer Caruso. That's a favorite meditation of Pir Vilayat.
And in the wholeness of this story is a whole message. The wholeness of his life is reflected in the multiplicity of his roles and interests. He was a son, a brother, a playwright, a cellist, an aviator, a journalist, a scientist, a falconer, a husband, a mountaineer, a father, a conductor, a mystic, a multilingual preacher, a leader, an activist, an author, a meditation instructor, a healer, a consoler, and a friend. And this list is not a complete list. I suspect there are some here who could add additional descriptions as well. And so what strikes me most about Pir Vilayat is the sense of enormity invested in his personality. To be in his presence was to be in the presence of largeness, a sense of vastness. And in the course of these moments that we have together, it is our opportunity to listen to some of the traces of Pir Vilayat's teaching that have been recorded down the years. Pir Vilayat, some of you may remember, often used to speak of the example of the great Italian opera singer Enrico Caruso, and remind us that Caruso's voice was recorded when recording technology was still very much in its infancy, and the quality of the recording was very poor. But my father was always fascinated how, with the latest technology, it was possible to recover the original voice from amidst the distortion of the poor quality of the recording, to filter out the excess superfluous sound and reclaim the pristine clarity of that amazing voice of Caruso. And he used that as an analogy to speak about our own condition and how we have suffered distortion in our being as a result of the accumulation of random impressions through conditioning, whereby we have lost the sense of the grand integrity of our true being. And Pir Vilayat always reminded us that it is possible to recover the fullness of one's celestial identity. It is there, just as the true voice of Caruso is there amidst the distortion of the original recording. So we are now going to recover the voice of Pir Vilayat from, in some cases, the distortion of old tape-recorded tracts. And some of these tracks have had to be updated and restored, slowed down or speeded up as the need was. But this is just another illustration of what was a basic teaching of Pir Vilayat, that even in the trace, even in the distorted trace, something of the original essence remains.
In the following talk, Pir Vilayat Khan will be speaking about contemplation. We've gone over this in the Yoga Sutras, in the Yoga Path, contemplation being the 7th stage of meditation in the Yogic Path. Pir Vilayat carries everything to a new level, and so it's a brilliant discussion on contemplation. May you enjoy it.
Now this is where meditation is just beginning to become really exciting. When it becomes, as I said, when it becomes contemplation. What I think is the new path, which is getting into the consciousness of the tree and getting into the consciousness of the flower or of the wave of the sea or of the atoms and of the stars, and really experiencing things from inside instead of from outside. And it kind of opens a whole new perspective in art, for example. It's not subjective. It's the opposite. It's as objective as you could possibly get. Now, this, as you know, the thinking of our time is absolutely holistic, and and so we know that in the realm of science, I mean, it's very, very clear that what we think is matter is not matter at all. It's just the idea that we have a matter. It's just in our minds. In the old days, people used to say, well, I only rely upon what I can touch because, you know, that's, or what I can see now, that's real. And of course, there's nothing less scientific than that. And yet people think it's really being really scientific to think like that. Not at all. The reason is because, as you know, we only see 1/50th of the range of the electromagnetic spectrum. So all that is beyond that range, that 50th of the range, we don't see, so we don't experience. And we say we're experiencing physical matter. We're only experiencing 1/50th of the range of electromagnetic phenomena through our eyes. And the magnitude, like we're experiencing things in the middle range, but we don't see things at the microscopic magnitude or the macroscopic magnitude of the galaxies, for example. We have some impression of the stars, but we have no idea about the tremendous magnitude of the universe. And then, as I say, we see things from the vantage point of the person. And let's say the whole scene is seen from this vantage point here, but that's not the way things are. That's the way things look. So, are you able to make a painting in which you show simultaneously the different vantage points from which one could see a thing? Well, it would be an interesting thing to try that out as an artist. But that would still be looking at things from outside, whereas looking at things from inside, that opens up a whole new perspective. Now, of course, the simplest, I mean, the way that is the most understandable to us would be we look upon a person from outside, like we see what they look like, the voice, we judge their personality from the way they appear and so on. But that's not the way a person is. That's just our impression of that person. Now, can we experience what it's like to be that person? That means really getting inside that person and experiencing. Just imagine that you are that person. Now, believe me, if one is able to do that, one can love everyone. Because then you realize how that person feels, like the despair in the person and his fears and his anger and his impatience and his intolerance. It's all, you can see it, you can understand it then. Doesn't mean that you would do the same, but still you have a completely different view of a person. You're able to experience them from inside. And the same is true of an animal, for example. If you could experience what it's like to be a dog, or what it's like to be an eagle, or an elephant, or a tiger, and what it's like to be a tree, and what it's like to be a plant, a flower, or what it's like to be a crystal, for example. Now, just imagine how this would magnify our experience of life, how it would enrich our experience of life. And I think that we're on the verge now of this completely new dimension of experience. Maybe that we could say this is the new consciousness of our time.
In the next meditation, Pir Vilayat Khan is going to speak about the breath. Pir Vilayat was generally, in his meditation discussions, not talking about the physical reality so much as the cosmic reality and how to reach the cosmic reality and bring the cosmic reality back into the physical. However, in this meditation, he does speak about the breath and how to use the breath in meditation.
Right, now to get ourselves together again, a kind of rule of thumb when you want to meditate, just start becoming aware of your breath, and by the sheer fact that you're aware of it, it will slow down. And always think that you are starting with exhaling, and that's where you put your effort, and try to extend your exhaling each time a little longer, and you inhale without effort. And as you exhale, you start, or in the beginning of the exhaling, you contract your abdomen and then your chest. And as you inhale, you dilate your abdomen and then your chest. And it seems strange because as one is exhaling, one is expelling air, and of course one's magnetic field one's aura is extending, so you're contracting your body and extending your etheric body, your aura, and as you inhale, then you are converging the light field of the universe and the magnetic field of the universe as your electromagnetic field. So it's very strange because you are you're extending, you're dilating your abdomen and then your chest. And now see what happens if you hold your breath after inhaling, between inhaling and exhaling. I see it's just like metronome, for example. At first it was swinging. Now you realize that there are 2 points at which the metronome stands still, or the pendulum stands still. So time has been suspended.
In the next talk, Pir Vilayat will be speaking about intuition and how to develop intuition and how to develop a deep awareness of that which lies behind the appearance. This is a theme that Pir Vilayat covered often in his talks. May you enjoy it.
Into the subject of how to develop intuition, because it's so important. We're continually having to face situations which we feel we can't solve with our mind. I don't really notice trying to sort things out in our minds, and there's no satisfaction, and I say, all right, let's just meditate. Then all of a sudden an answer comes, because when you're not under stress of having to decide upon the thing right away, express an opinion about the thing right away, and when you're in a hurry, you're forcing your mind, you see. But when you're dealing with a really big issue, then it's better just to give yourself a little time. Say, well, I'm sorry, I can't answer this now, but I just want to meditate on the subject. And then all of a sudden an answer comes. Now, we came across this big point, and that was, well, supposing that answer is your imagination, how do you know that it's not your imagination? Well, the only way to know is by subjecting your soul to the test of sincerity. You see, the people with imagination, I mean fantasy rather than imagination, sorry, are generally people who are not such sticklers about authenticity. So they have their thoughts go at random, and it's just pure fantasy. And so there's a difference between imagination and fantasy. Creative, let's say creative imagination and fantasy. Fantasy is random. Mm-hmm. Whereas imagination is creative in the sense that it's the same harmony that manifests in the forms of the trees and in the form of the water, the eddies in the water, and in the circumvolutions of the brain, and everything in nature is kind of it flirts out of a kind of order, harmony of the universe. And so imagination is creative imagination, like composing the High Mass of Bach, is something that just comes out of the order of the universe and passes through the extraordinary mind of Bach, and he gets it written down.
And the last offering of this meditation session will be Pir Vilayat talking about the cosmic identity, our cosmic identity, and how to reach our cosmic identity.
One needs to pick up the atmosphere of the early morning quietness in order to find peace within oneself. It gives one a perspective upon one's life. The early morning is the best time because nothing stirs yet, and so one is not full of the impressions of the day. There's a freshness, a new start. And so these are the moments that are most propitious to have an overview over our lives. Ask ourselves those big questions that we fail to ask ourselves when we're caught in the rat race and fail to see the wood for the trees. It's seeing oneself in the universe and asking oneself, what am I doing? Where am I getting? Who am I? Those are the great questions. And it will, the act of awareness has a transforming effect upon one's whole being. One becomes highly aware and awake. And of course, our ultimate objective is illumination.
And this concludes the 15th meditation session. I hope you've appreciated the voice of Pir Zia Khan and Pir Vilayat Khan. They are great inspirers of Ki and myself. We honor the Sufi tradition, we honor the Sufi path, we honor the yoga tradition and the yoga path. Namaste.